You are listening. Happy, healthy, successful Kleesman.
Hello, my name is Daniil, and today we have a guest, Abdul Turay, with us in the studio. And can you tell about yourself a bit?
Yeah, okay, my journey through life, right? I left university in the early 90s and I traveled to Hong Kong. I was a reporter on a newspaper there. And I returned to the UK. I worked in the government for a bit. And back in 2008, I came to Estonia because my wife is Estonian. And I got involved in politics and in journalism. I was the first black person, I'll say it, because if you're listening to the podcast, elected to public office in Estonia, where I was sitting in the City Council for 4 years. Then I moved back to the UK, and I'm currently working in journalism and in teaching in the UK. So I've got a lot of experience living in this part of the world, as well as living in Asia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I've heard that you lived in multiple places in Asia, right?
Mostly Hong Kong and Taiwan.
Okay. How was it?
That's a big question. There are T-shirts that people wear saying "I survived Hong Kong," right? Because it's like that. It's a tough place to survive. So if you can survive that, you can survive anything, right?
That's cool. That's cool. I wish I one day also go see around Hong Kong. That would be very cool. Great. And you have studied history, but you ended up in journalism. How that happened?
Well, I decided that's what I wanted to do, because a history degree, it doesn't really train you to do a particular thing, right? It's not like you go and you study medicine and you become a doctor or something like that. But it is useful if you want to, write for a living and if you want to be a journalist, like I did. So I started off just freelance writing for a newspaper in Hong Kong, and then they offered me a job, and I was an investigative reporter for a few years, and then I worked in Taiwan for a newspaper there for about a year. And so that's how I got into it. You have to push yourself forward and present yourself to editors and say, this is what I can do, and editors want stuff that they don't really have to work with. They want stuff that is ready to print the next day. And indeed, when I started working in journalism in Estonia, I sent my stuff off, and I didn't even hear from the editor at all. Right? It was just the first I knew that I was in print in Estonia was when I saw my face in the newspaper. Right? And that's happened a few times. It's happened in the UK as well. I've published stuff in Spike magazine and whatever, and again they published it without telling me. And the first I knew of that I was in print or on the internet was when a friend wrote to me and said, "Oh, I read your article." Oh, yeah, I didn't even know they published it, because they want stuff that's clean, right? So if it's clean, it's I'm going to use that, right, and send it off. And you've already sent it to them so that it's okay for them to publish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And you worked in Baltic Times as well, but I've heard that you quit the job quite soon.
Yeah, I quit the Baltic Times because the editor wasn't paying staff, right? This was during the recession back in 2008, right? And there was a particular staff member who wasn't being paid. And I wrote to them, the managing director of the company, and said, look, if you don't pay this guy, then I'm going to resign. And they said, well, we're not going to pay him. So, okay, goodbye, I resign. And that was it.
Okay, got it. And yeah, you said that later you worked in politics as well. Can you briefly go over it?
Well, this is something that's new. If you are maybe an Estonian listener, you probably didn't know this, but it was always my intention to go into politics in Estonia. Even the first time I came here, right, I had that idea in mind, right, as something that you can do, right? Just like, why do people climb mountains, right? Why do they climb Mount Everest? Because it's there, It's okay, I want to do something that no one else has done before, right? And no British person has ever been elected to public office in Estonia. I figured I'd try and do that just as something to achieve. right? But I needed an issue before I could stand. I needed to say, I'm standing on this particular issue. Right? And at the time, my son had recently been born, and there weren't enough kindergarten places, right? And so that was a logical issue to say, I'm standing for this reason, right? For public office, right? And I was already a published writer and a political journalist working in Estonia. So there were enough people who knew who I was that I could anticipate that I would get a few votes, or I would get some votes, right? And so, I put myself forward as a candidate, not for the party that I would normally stand for, but I put myself forward as a candidate and got elected. Yes.
Okay, cool. And what do you think? Which is more dirty, the public service or journalism?
Well, there's no comparison. I mean, journalism is an extremely tough profession. Yeah. So it is a tough profession because editors expect excellence. And if you make mistakes, then you will be blasted, right? And but in the public service, it depends who you're working for, really. Because public service is just huge. I mean, you could be working in a school, that's public service, but it's a completely different environment than if you're working for the civil service, let's say. So it's a completely different environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just go back to, you studied history, and you said that right now you're teaching in UK, or not anymore.
Yes, I'm teaching and doing a little bit of journalism on the side as well.
So from here, you're teaching in UK, right?
No, I'm based in the UK. Yeah, so I travel to Estonia from time to time, when I need to, right? And I travel back to the UK, right? So, nowadays you've got this like mobile living, or I don't know how to put it, where you can move from one place to another and fairly flexible. It was difficult during the COVID, obviously, because everything was in lockdown, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to have a flexible lifestyle where I can move back between Estonia and the UK when I need to.
Okay. So for now we can make a break, and then we will continue with the second part next week.
You were listening Happy, Healthy, Successful Kleesman. You can find more information on our website kleesman.com.